could be eating 800 calories a day and exercising your butt off. If you're exposed to all kinds of toxic, your liver is going to protect all your other organs, and it's going to do anything it can to keep these other organs from failing. If it has to make a bunch of fat to store those toxins in, that's what it will do. And everything that passes through your digestive system passes through your liver and through your lymphatic system. And that's where it wants to store that stuff. If it can, it's going to store it between your muscle and your skin, and it's going to pack that toxin away somewhere. So you figure if you have a lot of extra weight, all that weight could be carrying a lot of toxin. The window of time for you to get rid of that stuff is going to be a lot longer than somebody who's 2% body fat and never ingests any kind of drugs or toxins.
Is there a test that you can do to tell if you are toxic?
There is,
yeah.
I have no test available over the counter, but if you want to, I have a business card for Dr. Megan Strockman over at Grand Blanket. She does what they call a Nutra-Eval test. Yeah, Nutra-Eval test is a huge, they do stool, saliva, urine, and blood, and they basically paint a map of everything that's going on in your body. They can check your digestive function, your kidney function, your neurotransmitter levels, and it tests for all these different toxins that other tests don't even, the other tests, the tolerance levels would be higher that it wouldn't even show on there. They'll show like the slightest amount of mercury or cadmium or arsenic. And for me in particular, like I'm metal sensitive, and I had where my mercury levels were, the FDA says is an intolerable level. Yet I lost almost every hair on my body, had panic attacks, my thyroid wasn't working, I had high blood pressure, had all these clinical symptoms of mercury poisoning. But yet the FDA's tolerance level, it was way below what their level was.
What's the name of that test again?
Was much higher. The Nutra-Eval.
Nutra-Eval?
Yep, Nutra-Eval. And I don't know how many doctors do the only one I know of around here is Dr. Strockman. I think Dr. Laporte might do that test also. But that'll tell you, that'll break down all these different types of toxins that you're after too. And that's a thing to think about too is, you know, these are very general rules for detoxification. You can tailor your particular one to, if you know you were exposed to something, you could tailor it to that. If you were addicted to opiates for 5 years, I would target, you know, liver and addiction, things that pertain to that.
And that
if you're exposed to.
That test will show if you have higher amounts of something?
Yeah, yep, it'll show even the slightest amounts of cadmium, mercury, arsenic, all kinds of different toxins and stuff, agrimony, real common ones, you know. Mine was mercury, but a lot of other people I see end up coming back and those is arsenic. I guess arsenic's a pretty common toxin to run across too. So.
Would you say that once more?
What's that?
N-E-T-R-A.
Nutra-Eval.
And you have to have the doctor's name.
Yeah, and if you don't have insurance, that costs you $149 out of your pocket. And it's pages of information about what's going on in your body, pages that
But
thick.
your insurance will pay for it?
No.
Some of them will. I got really good insurance. My wife's an RN, so we get, you know, healthcare people get a little better insurance. So they paid for most of mine, I think, but not all of it.
What was the doctor's name again?
Megan Strockman.
Megan Strockman?
Yep, yeah, I have a card if you guys are interested.
Well, can a regular doctor?
Maybe, yeah, you can ask them if they'll do it, but honestly, the analogy I've heard that describes it best is it'd be like going to a French restaurant and ordering Chinese food.
Right.
They don't know how to
They
read
won't
it.
know how to read it.
They don't know how to read it.
Yeah, they don't know what it is, and they're taught to be afraid of it too. They're taught to, that's not. But if you've ever seen it, I wish I would have brought mine with me because I wish people could see the thing. It's amazing the amount of information you can get off that one test. The guy that's speaking after me is a dentist, and he's the dentist that I had remove all my mercury fillings. Actually, I was very, very pleasantly surprised to see he was the guy that was going after me. He removed all my amalgam fillings with a procedure that nobody else uses. Other dentists will tell you he's crazy. They'll say, oh, he's crazy that these mercury amalgam fillings do not leach mercury in your body. Well, I have a Nutra-Eval test to prove that it does. And I had 2 of my fillings that he took out were rusty, and most of the mercury that was in there wasn't in there anymore. They were porous. So you know that was enough proof to me. And he also does a test. He'll do a blood draw before he puts a filling in your mouth. He will make sure that that's not toxic to you, because there's things in this world that are not toxic to one person that are to the next too. So that's something to kind of consider too. And that he sent my blood off to test it in Texas to a lab, and you get another book of information that tells you all these different surgical substances and whether it's tolerable for you or not. Because if you put metal in my body will eat that metal and break it down into toxic things. And, I'm very metal sensitive. Yeah, and somebody else can get a surgical steel knee replacement, no problem. So that's something that they don't ever consider either. When you go to the dentist that put all those silver fillings in my mouth never sent any kind of test to a lab like that. So, and they never do that I know of. He's the only
Well,
one
we're
I've ever
learning
had do
so
that.
much more as life goes on.
Yeah.
How do you avoid these metals, consuming them?
There's a lot of different lists out there about where we get them from.
I mean, are
Some
they
of the
on
most
labels?
common ones?
You can't see them on the labels.
No, and that's interesting you bring that up, actually. There was a woman brought a product into our store a few months ago, and it was an organic rice protein product from a very reputable company in California. Well, they're in California, so the California labeling system is much more strict over there. And it said on the back, this product contains an ingredient the state of California recommends pregnant women avoid. So she said, can you call the company and find out what that is? I said, sure, it's probably not going to be a big deal. So I called them, and this is what I found out. They told me, they said the amount of lead that's in that product is not even a tenth of what the FDA, that's not even close to what the FDA tolerates is a tolerable level of lead, and totally unnecessary to label it as such because there's not enough in there. They don't have to say there's lead in it. Well, the state of California says if there's any in there, you have to label it. And there was so many parts per million of lead in there. So that just gives you one example of even that's a high quality organic product, a domestic product too. That's from the United States. It's manufactured, every part of it from start to finish is from the United States. And it still contains a certain amount of lead, and they don't have to tell you. And unless it's labeled in California or Washington and they have more strict labeling, then you don't know. You could be exposed to it all the time. If you're getting cheap coffee, if you're buying coffee at like drive-thrus and things like that, in the filter there's cadmium, and that's a very toxic heavy metal. And there's probably some amount of cadmium in your coffee beans too, but there is in those filters, so that's a small exposure that you're getting continuously. And it probably wouldn't be harmful to you, but if you're getting exposed to that and the stuff from car exhaust and all those things pile up on you, eventually your body has a hard time getting rid of all that stuff, and it starts to hinder its functions. So even small amounts of those things that you want out of your body if you can. So.
What about BPA?
Oh, BPA?
Yeah, plastics.
Bipolyphenol. Yeah, they're finding all these different things about it, and they did already in other countries. They've outlawed it years ago, and yeah, it is definitely something to be concerned about.
Should you dispose of all plastics that still
I
contain?
would, and even some of these plastics, like this plastic right here, that this drink is contained in, I wouldn't reuse it. It's fine when it was first made and they put this in there and they bottled this like this, but now they've taken the cap off, it's starting to oxidize the contents of this plastic, and now parts of it are going to start to leach into there. And if you refill this 3 or 4 times, every time you do that, there's more and more, even if it's not BPA, there's other plastic residues that are going in there. If you take that and fill it up with water, my parents love to do this, and I always mention this to them. They put it in the freezer, and then they pull it out. While it's thawing out, all kinds of stuff is coming out of that plastic in your water.
And it's even worse when you microwave a plastic?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
definitely.
You shouldn't even own a microwave.
Yeah.
Seriously, you put food in, you put that beautiful broccoli in your microwave, it changes molecularly the whole,
the
your body
enzymes
doesn't even
and stuff in
recognize it
there.
as broccoli anymore.
Yeah,
You're
it rearranges
wasting-
molecules and
you're
things
getting no
where.
nutritional value.
Yeah, that's true.
It's true.
Yeah, you can take out the greatest enzyme,
Yep.
raw food in the world, and
It's
put it in the
gone.
microwave and ruin it.
And aluminum cans, pop cans.
Yeah, aluminum, same thing. It's fine, and when it starts to break down, it's something I wouldn't refill and reuse. In its own state, it's probably not the best, especially depending on what its contents are. Like things like Coke are really high in phosphoric acid. That's oxidizing and breaking down parts of that metal, and you're getting small amounts of that metal. And I prefer plastic over metal because I have metal sensitivities. And for other people, it's probably not the best choice. If they have a tolerance to metal, they can drink out of a stainless steel container their whole life without any ill effects.
I mean, glass would be probably your
Yeah,
Glass.
glass is your best bet.
I mean, I freeze stuff in glass. I use my glass mason jars or whatever, and I put my chili in that and put that in the freezer. Just don't
Yeah.
fill it up so high that it's got room to expand.
And they're making a lot of glass
Don't
containers
use
now with
plastic.
rubber coating on it. One out there has a bunch of them for sale at Gold Glass. So they're making it more convenient in that way. And yeah, glass you could reuse over and over and over again. Even some glasses from some foreign countries, they put metals in it to maintain their clarity and their color. Yeah. So even then, they did it here too. But usually when they do it here, they use magnesium, and after they heated it up, it becomes inert. It's not. It becomes part of the glass basically, and you don't leach any of that.
Well, all plastic too is rated, I believe it goes from 1 to 5, and on every plastic there's a triangle with a number in it.
Yeah.
On the bottom.
Number 5 is basically safe.
No, you want ones and twos.
No,
Yeah, the rubbery ones tend to have a lot more bipolyphenol. Like number
Yeah,
2
they release
is great for
carcinogens,
like
which
furniture
cause
and stuff,
cancer.
but you don't want to drink out of it.
Right, so you want the higher, I don't know, I don't use enough plastic.
Yeah, and
that
those I really wondered about too, because I worked in a garbage company for 11 years, and I worked in a recycle factory for almost 2 years. And a lot of these plastics that you throw away, if it's clear, they don't recycle that. Even if they say they do, you put it in a bin, they don't, because it's cheaper to make new plastic than it is to recycle it, so they usually don't bother with that. That's when I worked there, that's how they worked that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there was a couple of companies, they got in trouble for fraud for that, but they were real small scale. The bigger companies I worked for did it on a huge scale, so. Any other questions?
Wow.
Anything in particular anybody wants to talk about? No?
What about, my wife has severe asthma.
Wow.
Any suggestions?
Severe asthma?
No, it's not severe.
Do you ever notice you get it, any particular instances, anything that sets it off particularly?
Well, we live in the woods, so it's the worst place in the world living without asthma.
So it's just, yeah, you just get set off.
It's more a seasonal allergy kind of asthma.
Okay. Well, their toxins can relate to that to some degree. If you have high levels of mercury or cadmium, your body's immune system tends to react to things in a foreign way. You become sensitive to things that otherwise would not bother you at all. So, in that sense, you could detox, but I really suggest talking to my boss about that. She's lived with asthma her whole life, and she hasn't been on an inhaler or any kind of medication in years now. And most of it is detoxing with a food-grade hydrogen peroxide. That's what she did. And she still uses peroxide regularly now too. I think that's why she's not having attacks as much.
Mm-hmm.
She takes baths in it. She keeps all this stuff going on all the time. Peroxide detoxifies you on a very basic level. Your body, every cell in the human body has a peroxisome in it. It has a little organelle inside there that makes hydrogen peroxide. This is the body's natural way of oxidizing things. And the problem is that we used to get exposed to a lot of it. It used to be in your water, it used to be in your food, and all these things. But because we have all this pollutant in the air, that's how the environment cleans up pollutants. It oxidizes them. So that oxygen, that peroxide's gotten used up before it gets to us now. So we don't have the amounts that we normally used to have. So when you augment it by putting drops in water or by taking a bath in it, you're introducing all this extra peroxide to your body that it once used to have. And when it gets a hold of that, it says, "Oh, I can use this to clean up all this garbage that I got messed that's been waiting for it," basically. So a lot of times you get rid of all that stuff, all your allergy type symptoms can be marginalized.
Is that a peroxide that you buy over the counter, or is it higher concentrated at a health food store?
Yeah, it's higher concentrated, and the important thing is not so much the strength, is that there's no chemicals in it to stabilize it. Because the stuff you buy at the store, in the grocery store, that stuff has been stabilized. They put a chemical in there to prevent it from expanding, which makes it toxic to us. Yeah, and the food grade peroxide is the stuff that every container you get from the store that had food put in it has been washed out with food grade peroxide. That's how they make sure that that's all clean and sterile inside there before they fill it with anything. So that the food industry uses it all the time. Big poultry farms and big cattle farms, they use it too. It prevents infection. They put it in their water. They do all kinds of stuff. Amish, you go up in the farm area, and the Amish people feed all their agriculture gets a certain amount of peroxide. All their tomatoes, all their peppers, most of their squash, stuff like. Because they know too that it used to be when that snow was melting off the mountain and the water was streaming down, it used to be full of peroxide. But now because of all the smog and chemicals and toxins, pollutants up there, all that snow isn't so full of peroxide like it used to be.
What about our well water? We've recently had a new pump put in, and we're now seeing more iron in our water. should I be concerned?